Good morning and welcome. Glad you're here. We're talking as much to the people in the room as those that are on the camera, and we'll be catching this on their own schedule. So we're going to be hitting a couple of different levels. I've already surveyed the room a little bit, and we are about 6 to 2 so far of kind of CMS newbies. So we're going to be taking this at a little bit more basic level than some might expect. But we'll kind of jump to light speed near the end and hit some of the high ends for those who are expecting a little bit more. There is a giveaway at the end. I forgot to bring them, so I will ship them. So if any of you would like to get into the drawing for a Using Joomla book, I was a technical reviewer of the book, so O'Reilly has given me plenty of them. So if you'll pass a business card to our room host, he'll pick a winner for us. And I promise you will not get spammed. There will be just one follow-up email that will have the information from this event. And with that, let's get into it. First of all, a little bit of obligatory self-introduction, just to know who I am, and most importantly, which CMS camp I come from. Because it does skew things ever so slightly. Actually, I create and install with all three of the big three CMSs. So we'll touch on all of them a little bit. But I'm perhaps most involved with the Joomla camp. So I live there, I work there. This is the Top Canyons Resort. I'm a weekend warrior, volunteer ski patrolman. It's my 36th season overall. So if you want to talk skiing over lunch, I'm there and game for it. My home is in Park City, Utah, so I am a local and tend to get out from there. So my home is from this part of the mountain, which is Condor. We're going 2 hills that way to where I'm at, which is just over the pass on I-80. Nice little dirt road community and a place to play around. And I'm usually speaking to an international audience that has no idea where Utah is even on the map. So, and in terms of why I listen to this guy, beats me. Technical reviewer on a couple of Joomla books, which is actually part of how I got into presenting and talking more about Joomla. So this one was authored in 2008, and I reviewed it at the beginning of 2009. And there's nothing like going page by page through a book and testing every single line of code or setup to really learn how to use software. So it's a great induction by fire hose into how different content management systems work and how to learn them. I am a serial volunteer. I'm predominantly spending my time with Open Source Matters, which is the company that holds all the trademarks and copyrights for the Joomla project. So I serve as their trademark and licensing person. And that makes life interesting. Also helping out with Mautic, which is one of the ones that you're going to hear about today, which is a brand new open source project. In addition to being the team lead for trademark and licensing, I work on several other teams, including our extensions directory, our resources directory, how to find people to help you out, user groups, and so forth. So there's a whole lot of things that go on in open source projects, places for you to be involved and get active in that are a whole lot of fun. How I make money is I am a specialist in the nonprofit community. My clients are nonprofits who want to have a better donor experience. So they hook themselves in with people like me who will help bridge, for example, donor information collected in the back end through GiftWorks, which might be their donor management system, keeps track of donors and donations. And we bridge that donor profiling information to the website so that when that donor then has established a presence, they've logged in or they've somehow touched or they've donated online, and therefore we know who they are, they now get a more personalized view of the world. So if we're friends of animals, and we all of a sudden find out you're a dog person instead of a cat person, dog articles are above the fold. Cat articles have just been buried deep, so deep that it'll be really hard to find. So that's how we adapt the website to match the interests of the donor. So it's kind of a fun thing. A little visual background and resume. I actually started the punch card days. My business has turned into prose, and I've also written a couple of books, mostly in the 3D modeling world before getting heavily into this. Like any web designer, I'm heavily dealing with all those fun things. Talk about a trade, a profession, a craft that has exploded into requiring people to be, Renaissance men. That you can very hard to be a master of any one of these techniques. There are so many things. It's such a broad field to keep up on. And so it is one of the challenges. And it is what distinguishes so many different web shops and web implementers out there in terms of where their focus is and where their strength is. Some are deep and heavy into SEO, some are deep and heavy into storytelling, some are deep and heavy into the artist side of things. So it's an interesting market to be working in. And just a little bit of housekeeping. I do enjoy questions anytime. So if the moment the inspiration hits you, please pop up with anything I haven't covered or something you'd like to hear more about. The slides will be online shortly after the show at the link for this particular show. So the joined in link and session number is 14344. It's on the schedule so that you can just go in there and grab slides. One of the advantages of being involved in the leadership of an open source community is that you get involved in their sessions, their training sessions, their conferences around the world. So I have the pleasure of having traveled a number of times with the Joomla project to present and speak in a number of places around. So it's one of the perks that if you actually get actively involved in an open source community and rise up through the ranks and join the people in the meritocracy who are constantly contributing to aspects of the software, you too can go on the road and go have free beer with a whole bunch of fun people and be in interesting places. It is through this kind of travel that I have acquired so many different perspectives about how the different CMSs operate in different parts of the world. They're regarded very differently. It's quite surprising, so we'll touch on that for a moment. But let's get into the CMS players. There is the proverbial top three of a field of 1,033 last count. There are so many CMS flavors out there, it is not. And the top three pretty much all had their start at the same time, just about 10 years ago. Some a little bit before that. For example, the Joomla project is a fork of a previous project called Mambo that actually started in 2001 as a proprietary closed source project. In 2003, they got the agreement of all the developers to open source it, as well as the agreement of incorporation. There was a little bit of disagreement about who should be driving the project, and all of a sudden in 2005, a fork happened. So a fork is when you've got two different management teams, can't agree with each other, each has different ideas of where the project should go. So because it's open source software, anybody can copy anything and build from it. A fork was made, a branch in the roads. There's two different versions of the same code base, two different development teams, each taking in a different direction under a different brand. So both Mambo and Joomla exist. Mambo has kind of fallen away. It hasn't been maintained in a couple of years now. But that's how that one started. Drupal is a fork of, I forgot. How did it start? Or did Dries do this one from scratch?
Dries mostly did it from scratch. It was based on PHP Nuke.
Yes.
But
okay.
not heavily. It was influenced more than
it was heavily on it. And then the WordPress project started from me2, and so it was another fork that took off also in 2005 timeframe. So right now, Drupal has roughly 3% of the web, doing a great job of commanding market share, greatly accelerating against the other players. So the growth rate of Drupal is doing quite significant right now, and there's a lot of anticipation around Drupal 8. Drupal 8 is a relatively deep refactoring of the software, which means that they kind of said, let's put everything on hold. We've been building everything out under this base layer for a long period of time. So let's stop, let's take a step back, take a white sheet of paper approach to, if we had to do this all over again, what would we do? And so 8 is a pretty significant rewrite of the fundamentals of the software. So it's going to feel like a different or a new piece of software. And some of the things that they've built into it are pretty significant. So I'm looking forward to it. And this is probably what's going to bring a lot of people coming to Drupal. It is the software for the big guys. So its sweet spot is that it's enterprise grade, designed for companies with big budgets. It is designed to, for the most part, the sweet spot of Drupal is where developers stay engaged with the client. It's not one of those, you build it, you hand it over, and you forget about it. There is an ongoing relationship between the developer and the client. And that's one of the nice things that actually attracts developers to working in Drupal. You get a little bit more job security, where some of the others are more about build it, pass it off, and let people just run with it. Drupal has a fairly significant learning curve, and I apologize for the levity of this one, but it's one of those fun things that Mautic put up about how serious the Drupal learning curve can be in falling off the cliff of life. It's no longer anywhere near as bad. This was done a couple of years ago back when it really is a challenge to learn Drupal, and that it takes you a dozen websites to finally feel like you've mastered it. It's for someone who seriously wants to be in business, and who's someone who's not afraid to work in code. You need to be able to work in code. Not so much anymore, so there's a lot of advancement. Other end of that spectrum is WordPress. WordPress is great for the first timer. This is an interface designed for do-it-yourselfers that don't need to get into the business of building websites. They're going to do a one-off. So you can pretty much follow the recipe and cookbook your own site fairly easily. So that is part of why WordPress has a commanding market share, is that it is that easy, approachable first one. But with easy, with anything that has all that ease of use and so forth, you're starting to remove options. You're getting constrained into a narrower box of things that you can do with it. And so as a result, the core aspect of WordPress is it is a tremendous blogging engine. That is its core business, the way it got started. And in addition, it has pages, so that you can do static pages, the other things that kind of live on a website. And then most everything else that you're doing with it is done via plugins or via themes, where you're bringing in a whole lot of extra software to make all that stuff happen. Not so much in core. The idea of a content construction kit, being able to do ad hoc stuff, you're bringing in a forms manager to make forms. You're bringing in other types of add-ons. Now that's not a criticism. That is actually the architectural design that several of the projects are going towards. All the projects are trying to get to a lighter core, which means that when you take it out of the box and you turn it on, the things that are built in are fewer and fewer. And the reason to do that is, one, it simplifies the interface until you start adding more things on, and they all have to have their little widget or interface piece. But the other is it makes it more performant. So you get a much faster, more nimble core if you don't have a whole lot of stuff watching for events to happen. So the more you remove things, the more focused you make the site, the more efficient it is, and therefore the faster it will perform. And of course, speed is everything in today's day with Google. Google is measuring response times on mobile devices as part of how you get search ranking. So being performant on a website is extremely important. So let's jump to number one, WordPress. 23% of the web runs on it. Extreme growth happening. It is just charging right up there, and it is picking up extremely fast. In this particular part of the world, in the US, clients ask for it. They ask for it by name. They don't even know why. They just know it's WordPress, everyone's using it, it's easy to use, therefore I want it. They don't realize necessarily that by the time they put in all the features, all the customization, all the things that they want the website to be able to do, maybe it's not so easy to use anymore. And part of that is because the backside interface, the part that you look at when you're an administrator and you're managing the website, in contrast to a couple of the other projects, for WordPress it's still a little bit more of the Wild West, in that there is not very much harmonized design for what that interface looks like. Everyone can reinvent it any way they want to, and it happens that way. So you will go into the back end for one type of plugin or widget, and it'll look totally different, and the buttons and the experiences will be very different from going in for another one. So it's kind of a jarring effect. It's very hard to move from widget to widget or plugin to plugin and feel like you're going to find the things in the same places. So that's one of its drawbacks. One of the things that I salute WordPress and its leadership team for is managing an almost infinite backwards compatibility requirement on its developers. And that is that the software, as it advances year after year and revision after revision, extensions written years ago still work. They don't change the API. Well, one of the things that happens when you don't change that relationship and you don't keep growing in between software and the plugins is that you are now stuck with a whole bunch of technical debt. There's a whole bunch of core software that you can't get rid of. You can't lighten it up. You can't refactor it very easily. So it's one of the things that keeps WordPress from advancing with the marketplace as quickly in terms of adopting new technology. They're doing great things. They're just about, they just finished rolling out, for example, an API for a web services layer. It's still not quite fine-tuned. It's, it's a great first draft. I believe they're just starting to put Composer in, something that Joomla's had for a little while. And it's, so it allows an extension developer to use more modern tools to design their extension without being held back by what's stuck in core in WordPress. So there's a lot of interesting things that are going on there. But it is still designed for easy approach, quick learning curve, and it will scale up to enterprise level. There are a number of huge users of WordPress sites. It will massively scale across processors. It does a great job of that until you get into certain plugins and extensions that will bring a site down if you try to scale it. So you have to do a little bit more homework on the plugins to make sure that they will handle the traffic that you hope to get if you have a very successful site. Let's move on to the third one in the package. Number 2 in the marketplace is Joomla, the Joomla project. I talked a little bit about how it got there. It's running at 3.2% of the web. Drupal is starting to just pass in a few of people's measures of market share. So they're just running neck and neck right now, and I expect that Drupal is going to pass very, very soon if it hasn't already. It has a bit of a learning curve. And the sweet spot, the design point, is that WordPress is the tool you use when you want to build your own, or you're building something for your own company, your own site, and you don't want to really have to learn how to be in the business. Joomla is designed much more for someone who wants to be in the business of being a web designer, yet doesn't want to learn code. So it's that middleware that's between the two extremes. So at the Drupal end of the extreme, you really do need to learn and know some degree of coding and some degree of how back-end stuff works with each other in order to share data across modules, in order to do all those really powerful things that Drupal allows you to do. It is truly the surgical tool that can do things just right, but with great power comes a great learning curve. At the other end of the extreme, WordPress, near zero learning curve, but you're very conformed. You got to fit in the box of what it's designed to do. And then in the middle is Joomla, where the extensions are kind of like Lego blocks. You can plug a whole lot of things together to make a more complex site that is much more feature-rich, and the features work together with each other a little bit more frequently than they do in other instances. But along the way, you've got the advantage of those 8,000 extensions, but you can also build and adapt those extensions without having to know code. There is a wonderful feature within the MVC architecture, model view controller is a way of programming. So within that architecture, it allows developers to have incredible amounts of power to change the way anything looks, because you can customize a core page of HTML generation in PHP. It's the way a page gets rendered out into HTML. You can take a copy of that file and stick it in another location and do personalization to it, customize it, and that will override core from then on, so that you can still update core and your personalization will not be lost. It won't be overwritten the next time that core file gets updated. So it has that for just about everything in the architecture. So that all by itself is an extremely powerful feature. It is also one of the strongest in terms of being multi-language. It's translated to 62 different languages at this point, and running multilingual, it's a core feature that allows you to keep track of the translation of all the different articles into different languages. And then there are new extensions coming in that actually help you assign and keep track of the translators that you've got working on things. So it's really good in a multi-language environment. And in terms of access control levels, it is comparable to Drupal in terms of having groups and roles within groups and who can do specific things, and being able to, in essence, emulate the departments of a complex corporation, something that you cannot do very well inside of WordPress. So, a number of things that make it stand out. In terms of job growth, This is a chart from a number of years ago, unfortunately. But you can see that the curve for Drupal is way up. It creates a lot of jobs. And in part because you are building enterprise-grade sites, you create large teams to put things together. The WordPress and ACL, there's so many people who feel like their son or grandson can build the website. They tend not to hire web designers as much. So, yeah.
Question: where does Django fit in the scheme of this? Is it in the same space?
Django is more of a web, like a web programmer's framework and not necessarily a CMS.
Okay.
Correct.
I just wondered how that relates.
Doesn't all that much. So, one of the things about CMSs, and in particular, it's one of the things that why I told you which camp I'm in. Depending on your tool of choice, when what you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And some people, therefore, will characterize projects into whatever tools that they have. And in servicing clients, the most important thing is figuring out what the needs of the clients are and using the best tool for the client. That's why I build in all 3 CMSs. There is a just right tool to use for each job. And one of the things that is a challenge in the marketplace is people sell what they know as opposed to being cross-trained and cross-platform. In the trends, best of breeds are a wonderful thing. And right now in the open source world, there's a lot more attention devoted to not reinventing the wheel. That you're starting to cobble together pieces of other projects. And that's what today is about. Can you put the best of both worlds or 3 different worlds together? And in our case, we're going to be doing that. So one of the products to bring out here is a Joomla extension, a component in the Joomla terminology, called WordPress for Joomla. Funny thing. And what it does is completely take an entire instance of WordPress and stick it into a Joomla site in a subfolder that is dedicated to running WordPress blogs inside a Joomla environment. So you're using the Joomla User Manager, which is a very robust user manager. You get the advantage of that access control levels, the users and groups, so that you can actually divide things out by department instead of decide who can edit what kinds of things. That you've got the ability to have that access to the translation manager, you've got access to a number of different features and so forth. The things that make Joomla so powerful and the reason why people grow out of WordPress into Joomla sometimes. Yet at the same time, you're not giving up the user interface that people know for creating blogs and submitting articles. So you can meet that drawdown on a client that's asking for, but it must have WordPress. But I also wanted to do this. And you're stuck with a WordPress extension that doesn't do this very well. So now you've just doubled the scope of extensions you can use. You've got the 6,000 of WordPress, the 8,000 of Joomla. You've got 14,000 options now to solve their problem. And when you put the 2 together, you can run both a WordPress widget and a Joomla plugin in that same environment and get things to render out on the page. It's a rather interesting and magical piece of combination. The company put this together. I have no affiliation with them. It's called Core PHP. They're based in the, I want to say Michigan, Battle Creek area. And President Stephen Pignataro is involved in the leadership of the Joomla project as well as extremely active in the WordPress project. And for us, they were kind enough to give us a discount code, so if you want to keep track of this and actually try it. I think it's good for about 15 days. Understand that the street price for the software is only $60. Currently they're running about $3,000 a month of revenue off of this. It's been in production for about 2.5 years. They are just finishing up a rather substantial rewrite of the software to make it bring the 2 features together, and that's the part that I have set up on my demo machines, is the beta for the current version, which really does marry the 2 together much better. And one of the things that's happening in this is both software systems run with templates. Templates define the look and feel of a website. It's the mail merge process. So you've got places on a template that are defined boxes where the template will then reach out to the content management system and give me the content that fits into this box. So it's how pages get assembled. So, and that's part of why you want dynamic database-driven websites, is that the layout of pages and the content of pages are dynamically responsive to what people are looking for. So it's built for, rather attractive like that. So the new rewrite is actually getting the two systems to talk even more effectively with each other. So that in a kind of a space on the page that would be reserved for Joomla, it can still reach in and get from WordPress, say, a list of top 10 articles in the blog. Or that you're inside the WordPress context and that you can reach out into Joomla and pull in some of its content to make it appear inside of an article. So there's much more magic in the rewrite that they've done that's just rolling out. So that's what brings those two together. And I'm sorry, I didn't have the screen up for you. But this is their page on their website and the place to learn more. So Core PHP is the manufacturer, the programmer of the software. They have a staff of about 18, rather substantial group of people. They put out a number of different products. Paygo is the one that's probably perhaps most exciting for what it's going to do. Paygo is an e-commerce platform that has taken a dramatically new approach to how e-commerce is done. So it's rather exciting. Next, the third hat in this hat trick, Mautic. The name is a contraction of marketing automation. Marketing automation up until now has been the kind of the reserved world for the proprietary companies like HubSpot and IntelliSoft and some of the others out there, where what they're doing is keeping track of how people come to your site and then whether or not they convert. So this is the world of squeeze pages and leads and open rates on emails and just conversion management. So this world has up until now been very expensive to get into. Salesforce, to operate it, to truly own it, you're spending 10 grand. That's not very approachable for a company that might be a few people size to just be investing that in software that runs that on a continuous basis. IntelliSoft is kind of the lowest end entry level player in that market space at $300 a month. It is, it's a serious chunk of change. My nonprofits that I work with, they barely can rub two nickels together. The idea of spending that level of money to manage the donors and donations for nonprofits is something that's just somewhat unreachable for a lot of the very small nonprofits. So they're excited to see something like this come up. The most that people see very frequently being used is something like Constant Contact or MailChimp, where you're doing newsletters, and in the sending of the newsletters, you've got visibility to the open rates and the click-through rates. You've got an idea of what people are responding to, what they're clicking on and getting excited about, and which web page they're going to go see. And you get some of those trackings and statistics from which you can measure your success. Well, what Mautic has done is taken that simple concept and scaled it up to cover any media, any point of presence. So in something like MailChimp, the way they know that an email has been viewed is that they've got a nice little tracking code in the name of an image. And so when you open the email and images are displayed, it hits a server, it passes that tracking code, pulls back the image, and now the server knows that your specific email address, opened that image. That's how they know. So it's called the tracking pixel. It's 1 pixel by 1 pixel, it's a transparent GIF, and you can stick it somewhere on the page, and that's how they know. And in the same idea, that's also how they know about the click-throughs and which page you've landed on, because each page has a URL destination address associated with it, and each image has a different key number on it. So you'll see if you ever right-click and save an image on one of these sites, there's a huge number string associated with the image name. Well, that's actually identifying your email address and what you click through to, all embedded into that string so that they can figure out how you're traveling. Well, take that same concept and now make it platform agnostic. One tracking pixel that you can put anywhere. Any page of your website, on Facebook, on Twitter, on any social media, any point of presence that you want to use, and that's the magic of Mautic. So they do not generate the emails. They do not run newsletters. They do not do any of that work. They'll let you use any tool you want to. They don't care. All they want is that one little pixel stuck in there somewhere on the page, and then they know what's going on with it. And so they'll track somebody no matter how they have touched. And how do they track? Well, in the request, even though the person may not be identified, the IP address is identified, the browser's configuration is identified, some cookie patterns have been identified. So they can tell, click after click, who that it's the same person, same serial number in essence, has been identified back to the software. So Mautic knows how this person has traveled, so that they know that you responded to a newsletter and you clicked through and you visited a couple pages on the website, but you got bored and you left. And then some other time you saw the Twitter tweet, and from that you clicked through to Owly to see what the expanded URL was, and then you clicked through to the Instagram picture, and then you finally clicked through to see what page was talking about it. And then, so you saw the blog, and you might have read 3 more blogs after that, but you still didn't get all that excited. And then they finally ran some promotion, and that brought you to a page where you actually did convert. You went and downloaded their ebook, and now they have their email address, and now they know who you are, and now they know all those pages that you visited from, and can look backwards to see what the path was, and where your pathways fell apart, and where the pathway went through. And now aggregate that statistically, and now you've got A/B testing on steroids. You know exactly which parts of your website are performant or not, and are doing a good job. But also, you have a better understanding of who that particular person is that has converted over, where they have traveled, and therefore what their interests are. So that you can start data mining who that person is and building a profile, and therefore have a more enhanced relationship with them. Now, one other thing that's built into Mautic is the concept of triggers. Triggers are used heavily in marketing automation. Triggers are this thing of saying that, oh, they clicked through from WordPress and therefore we're going to give them 20 points. They clicked through from this particular email campaign and they actually read this page and therefore we'll give them 50 points. You know, at some point they're going to hit a number of points where you're going to push to them. You're going to send them an email with an autoresponder that says, so glad you were interested in this. We'd love to take our relationship to the next stage. They're going to start scaling it up. They're going to start treating the person visiting as a live lead. So Mautic has triggers in it. And what do the triggers fire? Not something in Mautic. Triggers, it's got an API interface. It'll fire whatever software you want to use. So that part of the design is brilliant. And it's exciting stuff. It is version 1 software. It just rolled out public about 6-7 weeks ago. And all kinds of development is still going on. This has been the brainchild of this gentleman, David Hurley, who is the Joomla community manager. So he's got tremendous reach across the network. He's the guy who takes new contributors and helps them find their place in the project to get more involved. And from that, a whole lot of Joomla people are very involved in the Mautic development and promotion of it. That's how I came to know it. He is a web developer with his own company, WebSpark, and he's created products like Creamery, which is a CRM system built into Joomla that works, or Cobalt, which is a Symphony-based, built off the Joomla framework, where Joomla has, in essence, taken a core part of what makes the big Joomla engine run and put it out there as components available through packages from Composer. And so there's just a number of brilliant things that are going on in that world. But he is our modern day, for Mautic, benevolent dictator. So just the same way that Drupal has Dries and WordPress has Matt out there making sure that the project stays straight and true and on a steady course, you've got David as the guy who's keeping Mautic on a steady course, which is a wonderful thing. This is Mautic.org, the place to go check out this stuff. The software is free as in the 4 freedoms of GPL software, but it is also free as in free beer. So it's free to download, free to use. You can put it up on your own server. It can live on the same server as your CMS. You can stick it in its own subfolder and pull your tracking pixel from there, and it'll set up and run there. It works just fine. For each of the major CMSs, there is a plugin available to install and set up Mautic to run within the CMS. So, for example, in WordPress, you can install the Mautic WordPress plugin And it will automatically stick that tracking pixel in on every page of every website that you're building. And same idea in Joomla. There is a Joomla plugin that you just, all you do is install it. It's, it's a 30-second install, and from then on, it just automatically sticks the tracking pixel in there, just like it would stick Google Analytics code at the bottom of the page. So it's those types of plugins available for nearly, for most of the major CMS projects out there. I'd say it's the top 15 at this point. I'm sorry? Thank you, appreciate it. So there's a lot of good things that are going on there. There's also Mautic.com. So you followed the WordPress model there where you can run Mautic on your own, on their servers. So, and do it for free. So on Mautic.com, you can create your own account. That's where you'll get your one pixel tracking pixel, and you'll be able to stick that into the plugin. And from then on, for example, your WordPress site will be reaching over to duke.mautic.com/trackingpixel and pulling the pixel from there, and that's how it goes. And then when I log into duke.mautic.com, I will see how people have traveled to get there. What's fun about all this is it's redefining what a CMS means. When you start putting these exciting pieces together and making them play together, all of a sudden CMSs have a new role in life again. It's no longer losing market share to dedicated e-commerce sites. It's really bringing all the resources back together. Marketing conversion sites are no longer a separate space anymore. We're starting to see the convergence of all these technologies back into an intermixed environment, which makes it just a whole lot of fun. So, content marketing and sales is kind of the new acronym out there for what a CMS should be doing, and this is how you bring those pieces together. So, what got CMSs off the ground in the first place was continuous disruption happening in the proprietary world a decade ago. I think we're about to see some disruption happening again, and it's truly some interesting innovation. And it's becoming the hallmark of open source. So with that, I'm going to jump into some demo time. Very little of it, unfortunately. But I will also invite you to fire off your questions as we go, and I bring this up on screen. I will appreciate you taking a moment to log in and rating this presentation on Joined In. It actually helps determine how, which speakers are selected for other events. So I appreciate being selected. So having a nice positive rating would be appreciated. So please do log in and post your comments, good or bad, to how we did today. And would you figure out who won the drawing for those who passed in? And we'll take care of that and hop over.
I don't think we ever collected business cards, did we?
Okay, you can do that. Well, I'm
What we'll do is I'll just number everybody and pick a random number. Unless you want to collect cards.
go to it.
Business cards? You don't have a business card, put your name on a piece of paper and we'll drop one thing. Whichever one that's in the circle.
Okay, one of the things that we've talked about this morning that is kind of an interesting challenge for this kind of presentation is some of you are at ground zero for how to use a CMS and you're involved.
Don't worry
with
about
the
the business card.
And we've kind of at a high level can hop through three of the big players. I'm not set up actually to demonstrate the three players very well, so that's one of the challenges here. But I'll at least hop in and show you this part. This is the Joomla backend. This is what you see when you log into Joomla. And one of the magic pieces about Joomla, and part of why it has the constant playing field that I talked about, that it helps you with different extension developers, is that when you go to install a new extension, when you go to find your mouse, it isn't showing up. Oh, you're not seeing my screen. I apologize. Let's see what we can do about that.
Gentleman here in the green shirt has won the book.
Excellent.
I just numbered everyone like this and then like two.
You should just write down your mailing address because I didn't bring it with me, and I'll ship it to you. I'm sorry?
Physical mailing address?
Yes. Hard to ship it otherwise.
physical book versus a digital book.
It is a physical book, absolutely. Now you're seeing it. Cool. Push stuff up again. So, Mautic.com, this is where you would go to create your free account and get your one pixel tracking pixel. This is the back end of Joomla. So the control panel that you would see. So it's a simple login screen to get there, but once you have logged in, this is what you're going to see as part of the back end, the control panel that you first see. So it's rather easy to hop around and see what's going on, see who else is logged in and so forth. And what's magic about it, and something that has happened a lot in this part of the world, is that there is the ability to create components created by third-party developers that are part of what makes your system run. It's how you add things in. Because Joomla, like many of the platforms, are getting to that very narrow core where in essence everything is an optional feature. So I wouldn't be surprised if the heart of Joomla called content, which is the article manager, which is the same as the blog manager within WordPress, finally was taken out of core so that you could stick in any blog manager you want. There's no reason to carry content, the article manager, if you're going to run WordPress as your blog. So you don't need the duplication. Although there are reasons to have both at times. But with this, you've got the ability, if you were to go into a particular piece of software that's written by a third-party developer, one of the magic pieces of the Joomla backend is it was the first one to become completely mobile-friendly in how all of the software works. And they have required that all developers code using Bootstrap as a common interface. So no longer are developers coming up with unique styling books for how parts of the back end should look. It's no longer the Wild West. If you use the standard Bootstrap interface, you are assured that your software will continue to look good across all the different back end templates you may want to put onto a site. One of the things I like as a site designer delivering for nonprofits is that the technical sophistication of staff within nonprofits varies widely. Some people are power users and are very comfortable seeing all the different tools. Some people go, which thing do I click on? Well, in Joomla, using your access control levels and setting up users and groups, you can decide this person never needs to see the extension menu item. They will never go there, so why show it to them? Don't let them get in trouble. They never need to see components, or they only need to see a few of the components. So you can choose, pick and choose which things are available to somebody and set that up as part of their profile, and it's unique to them. So each person who logs in gets a different view of the back end, a different view of the world. It allows software to be updated with one click, which is pretty much happening all over the place. Now this is Akiba Backup, which is a backup system, so that what you built you want to back up, of course. Akiba works equally well in WordPress. So Akiba builds a backup system for WordPress. It's a WordPress plugin, and this one backs up both. So once you've installed WordPress with Joomla, it's reaching across and it's backing up the entire system. So it's a one-click backup. So one click, you get the whole thing backed up now. Sir, yes, sir. We have reached the end of the time. I'll just wrap up very quickly here. Just looking across things. This is the Mautic back. Once you create a free Mautic account, this is the place that you're going to find all the instances you might have, so that you can create a different Mautic instance for each of your clients if you design websites for other people. So each person might have a different set of points of reference, presence on the web. You set up a different sub-account for each of those. Each has their unique tracking pixel. You stick it in all of their places, and that's how that pulls together. Mautic has a nice interface where there's a dashboard. This is what you see when you log in, and if I had access to some data, I could be able to show this to you, but unfortunately we have privacy issues. because we're tracking real people that then convert. So we have issues figuring out how to do demo data for people that haven't quite given permission to share their data. So we've got a little challenges with that. But with it, Mautic has its own reminders calendar. You can set up things that fire off. You manage your different leads. This is how you know who the people are once they have converted. We'll show you a list of people and so forth. So there's not much to see in the interface at this point because it's an empty shell. But as you build things out, you can have emails that are fired off of triggers. You can keep track of triggers and set up rules for what will happen if someone has so much level of interaction with your site. And finally, you've got various reports that are available and so forth. So it is an extremely powerful piece of software, not even touching the capability of the surface capability here. So that's it. Sorry to say I've run over, but we're going to call it a day. And thank you very much, and hope you found this interesting. And now we're officially in break. Questions? Questions, comments, surprises, unexpected? Sure.
A little time I've spent in the Joomla community, it definitely seems to be more focused on commercial applications, and there seems to be a lot more, paid plugins and that sort of thing. Does that jive with your view, or would you say that that's not necessarily the case?
I'd say the split is about 50-50 in terms of paid and non-paid.
Okay.
One of the realities, though, is that I, as a site developer, I prefer using the paid applications because I want that developer around maintaining stuff so that I don't find a year from now I'm suddenly having to replace an extension that I got for free because the developer couldn't figure out how to monetize himself.
And maybe I'm jaded because at least in the WordPress community, the paid plugins tend to be lesser quality than the open source ones. And they
Seriously.
throw the code over the wall and then forget about it unless somebody wants to pay me to maintain,
Got it.
So maybe that's just my.
So it's different revenue models. And,
It really is.
Some people are paying for support and therefore they're not putting up answers to questions on their forums, which is also harm. But I am